So, when thinking about talk for this conference, I really wanted to focus on these kind of three high-level ethos that I feel me and are a foundation for my biophilic design community and generally my design ethos, which is discovering nature's genius, inspiring regenerative creativity, and finding hope. I think it's really important. So currently my day job, I'm a program manager at Google in the Boulder Pearl office. I've had a bunch of roles, community management, AI feature development, and I'm currently in privacy and cybersecurity. But my passion and my side hustles are around sustainable design. And that's what I got my degree at CU Boulder over a decade ago, where funny enough, I actually have always wanted to go to this conference. I just never have been able to, so the fact that I'm here right now, it's kind of like full circle and I'm pinching myself a little bit. So, but my general life philosophy is to unite nature and man for the benefit of both on this spaceship Earth. And I hope to transition to fulfilling this ethos full time in the future at some point. But right now I'm focusing on small consultancy projects, and I run the Biophilic design community on LinkedIn that I started almost a decade ago. It's one of the largest sustainable communities on LinkedIn dedicated to bringing together professionals and enthusiasts who are passionate about integrating nature into the built environment. And I really want to showcase that these solutions can be done anywhere in the world at any scale by anyone and really empower people and give people hope and inspiration. And we really need that now more than ever these days, it seems like. We have almost 120,000 members, so I've had a front seat in like the evolution of biophilic design and green infrastructure around the world. And so this talk, I'm really going to explore some of these inspiring trends that I've been seeing that go beyond borders, really. And for those who maybe don't really understand or know biophilic design, essentially it's the word bio, life, and philia, love, and the love of life. I mean, how cool is that? I've really taken that everywhere I go. And I'm also working on a biophilic design course with my friend Abigail, who's sitting right there. And a quick background about me, and then I'll move on to more interesting things. So I grew up in Hawaii, and I was always surrounded by nature. And when I moved to the mainland, I was really experiencing like nature withdrawal. And you know, in Hawaii, I didn't have to seek out nature. It was just something that was a part of my world. And even like more now as an adult, I feel like I've lost that connection with nature, and we have generally as a society a little bit. And this means more to me now more than ever, because I am a mom to a recent one-year-old daughter. So I'm thinking about this and like what the world I want to leave her. And yeah, that's me in Hawaii, the closest one to me as a baby. And then at the far end, that's me and my daughter Amelia. We recently were in Taos, New Mexico, and stayed in an Earthship. And those things are so freaking cool. I would totally live in one. Okay, today I want to share several case studies. I'm not going to focus on green roofs because y'all are experts. Yeah, imposter syndrome there. So I'm going to focus on some other things around biophilic design and show all the different ways that nature is. So let's dive in. I want to start off as nature as a climate regulator. Nature as our ultimate climate regulator, cooling cities, purifying air. There are very innovative ways that people are harnessing nature's inherent abilities to combat urban heat islands, improve air quality, move beyond energy-intensive artificial systems, things like that. Of course, you know, trees are a great climate regulator. I also love moss and of course green roofs and facades and all that good stuff. And but an old technology that I'm actually really excited about that I'm not seeing a ton of is moss. They're kind of like tiny climate warrior, and they absorb 4 times more CO2 than trees by volume, and you know, capture those pollutants as well. They have over 450 million years of evolution under their belts. So they're quite smart. Over 20,000 different species of moss worldwide. They're just basically like cool grain sponges, which is really awesome. So there's a Dutch startup called Respire. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. It's the far pictures there. So they develop these living bricks that naturally grow moss and effectively turn walls into like CO2 trap, absorb CO2 trap pollutants, cool buildings, great for dense urban areas. And then Green City Solutions out of Germany on this closer side here, they developed these regenerative biofilters They use moss, and they, filters out particulate matter, and it actually reduces fine dust by 82%, and it has the effect of 81 trees in 9 square meters, which is pretty cool. And yeah, trees are natural air conditioners, right? And Sugi, which is a company outside or in London, they're really amazing. They designed these pocket forests. So a pocket forest it uses the Miyawaki method, which is pioneered by this Japanese botanist, Akira Miyawaki. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And they can cool surrounding areas by over 25% Celsius and slash AC costs by over 30%. The Miyawaki method is that it's 10 times denser and 10 times faster. So it packs like 30 plus native species into very small spaces, like the size of a tennis court, which is pretty cool. It boosts local ecosystems and resilience and biodiversity. And because they're so dense, they absorb pollution 30 times more effectively. They sequester carbon at rates 40 times higher per square meter compared to traditional single layer plantings. And these mini forests can save an estimated of 170 million annually in stormwater management, and then extend pavement life by 40% through natural shading. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So this is before and after in just 1 year, and this is a little tiny pocket park in London. Okay, nature as ancestor and as our family, right? The natural world is not just property, it's a relative with rights. Protecting it honors our shared lineage. Have to talk about Hawaii. One slide. So in Hawaii, water is not just a resource, it's ancestral, it's familial, it's wealth. The word wai means water and wai means wealth. I mean, that's just like a value signal right there. It's absolutely beautiful. Dr. Beamer and other indigenous scholars, they published a book recently called Waiwai, Future of Water and Hawaii. And they describe this governance vision rooted in ancestral intelligence. They call it the ancestral circular economy. It's actually happening across Hawaii today, but they have a legal framework where water is protected under the public trust doctrine, and they recognize it as like a collective right, which is really nice. And there's generally a larger movement that's brewing around legal personhood for rivers, mountains, other natural entities, and Hawaii's kind of leading this. Thinking about Aina as an ancestor, not just an object, but other folks that are leading this as well is New Zealand. So we often speak about nature as something separate than us, but we are nature, and the plants, the trees, the rivers, they're not just resources, they're family to be protected. In 2017, New Zealand became one of the first countries in the world to grant human rights to a river. And so there's essentially legal personhood is being granted for rivers and mountains. So yeah, that river, and then also this forest here as well. I'm not gonna pronounce it because I will. But yeah, and then also recently, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights has officially recognized that nature has rights, which is setting a really powerful precedent in law. So now we just kind of need to shift that protecting nature is not just like an environmental issue, it's a matter of human rights, and there's kind of like this new legal precedent that can maybe open the doors for us for strategic litigation efforts and stuff. So now we just need to make sure that it becomes a transformative force, not just a symbolic one. Nature as intelligence. So nature has 3.8 billion years of R&D. Why are we still reinventing the wheel? Building off the idea of nature as an ancestor, we can really start to begin and understand its inherent intelligence in nature as an intelligent living ancestor that we are only really beginning to mimic and to utilize, and it's really time that we learn from nature. And I want to preface by saying, we're not a bad species, we're just a young one, and so mimicking natural intelligence can provide a way for us to learn from our ecologically wise leaders. So these 3D printed living seawalls in Sydney are mimicking natural ecosystems and providing habitats for marine life, supporting 40% more species than flat surfaces. Sydney realized that they can't just tear down all the seawalls that line more than 50% of their shoreline. They have to use existing infrastructure, and these flat seawalls are basically marine deserts, and they're too flat to support a lot of life. And so they created this living seawall design, which is made out of tessellating concrete tiles to mimic the root structure of mangroves, and all of these mangroves that used to actually surround the Sydney Harbor, which is actually a really beautiful throwback to that sense of place as well. And its unique geometry provides habitat for marine life. And so now Lake Sydney is a leader in marine technology and biomimicry, which is pretty cool. And then the Bugge Fiber Pavilion in Germany is a really beautiful example of nature-inspired architecture. It was inspired by a beetle wing. They use additive manufacturing that's 5 times lighter than conventional steel. And so one of those single components can take the weight of 15 cars, apparently. I'm not gonna test it out though. When I think about biophilic design and biomimicry, I think some of the most intriguing things about their relationship is just their shared connection, their shared goal of connecting us with nature, and the ethos of creating conditions conducive to life. I feel that biomimicry doesn't necessarily look like nature, it focuses on the function of nature, whereas biophilic design tends to be more focused on the emotional, the spatial, physiological dimensions of the human-nature connection, and it could look more like nature. One of my favorite examples of biomimicry and nature's genius is the blue morpho butterfly. So structural color, essentially, it's created by nanoscales, structural surfaces that reflect the light. It's not pigment-based, so you can find it across some animals, insects, plants. It's very, very lightweight. It doesn't fade over time. And so there's actually a paint that someone created that was inspired by these butterflies, and it has no pigments. And so not only does it like remove all those really chemical toxins and things of synthetic paints, but when you put it on the facade of buildings, it actually keeps them cooler as well. And again, it doesn't fade, and it's more lightweight. So we have a lot to learn. I have to talk about AI. I'm sorry, I have to bring it up. It's coming, it's not going anywhere. I, for one, welcome my new overlords. Anyway, generative AI will drastically expand nature-inspired innovations and scientific breakthroughs, I think. We can use it in a variety of ways as a research assistant, a thought partner. I mean, yeah, our previous speaker used it. I use it all the time. A designer, it can help us visualize our concepts and our ideas and iterate on them in the design process, which is kind of like that top left inspirational image that AI can help us do. One of the greatest opportunities of AI, in my opinion, is to really help humanity decode the laws of nature and apply them to our designs and to our cities and to our systems, and continue to leverage their intelligence. This bottom left, Maria Montserrat, is an AI-powered natural intelligence agent that is revolutionizing sustainable urban design. It was developed by Biotonomy. He is fantastic, Bowen, and he has an online natural architecture academy that's really fun. But she essentially listens and learns in response to the needs of vertical gardens and rooftop gardens with advanced sensors and AI algorithms. And so she monitors humidity and temperature and air quality and optimizes irrigation and nutritional use, detects pests and plant stress, and creates strategies around that, and supports all sorts of stuff. And then I just really think that this is a great way that we can embed AI and turn our green roofs and facades into responsive, self-sustaining ecosystems, hopefully. I'm not going to begin to try to pronounce this, but Hortus XL, that's the bottom right. It's a new form of bio-digital architecture. It's a digital algorithm that simulates collective coral morphogenesis and physically deposits this by 3D printing. It basically uses cyanobacteria, which is one of the oldest organisms on the planet, and it uses photosynthesis, and it converts radiation into oxygen and biomass. And the intelligence, the design is digitally computed using algorithms to optimally arrange the photosynthetic organisms. And then the Genesis EcoScreen, which is the top right, they use intelligent algorithms and agents that are similar to AI, and they're able to design very complex geometries autonomously, just using a very few and small sets of parameters. It has a custom-made generative design algorithm, and it's 3D printed out of filaments that are 100% recycled PET bottles. It's designed to look like a massive root system. It has embedded water and draining systems for plants and insect habitats and bee shelters in there. And one example of the algorithm's generative design capabilities is it used all of this data analysis of the sun exposure across the installation and the site to optimize the diameter of the 3D printed branches, to create the right shading features and position the plants correctly. They are really cool. I think it's ecologicalstudio.com. They're really cool. Check them out. Nature as the missing resident, reclaiming our urban space with purpose. If you plan a city for cars and traffic, you get cars and traffic. If you plan for people and places, you get people and places. So the first one here is the Seattle waterfront transformation. They removed the Alaskan Way Viaduct, a double-decker freeway that opened up 20 acres of parkland, created a walkable, bikeable promenade, restored the access to the water for the city and its residents. Really showing that when we prioritize people over cars, it can really lead to vibrant public spaces. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about climate resilience, public health, equity. It's not just taking away car infrastructure and taking stuff away, it's about giving back. And then in Utrecht, I'm not going to pronounce the location because they had a 12-lane asphalt road that was removed and has now been turned into its original state and is used by residents and access way into the water. And then the West End project in London, London had this really amazing across the city initiative. They did 11 different green spaces all over the city. They closed it down to just bikes, buses, and pedestrians. They created a bunch of cycle lanes, wider pavements, tons of water catchment, over 8,000 plants and 60 trees, 45% of reduction in air pollution. Oh, and my slide is stalling. All right, winter is coming eventually. I know it's really hot, so it's hard to think about it snowing, but every winter, the fresh snow unveils the true nature of our cities and our streets and how they're over-designed for cars. And the immense potential for us to reclaim space for people and for life and for nature. So Sneck Downs are an urban design concept where planners leverage snowfall to observe how the streets and the roads are used. And it shows how much unused space there is to be repurposed for pedestrians, for green space, for other things. And this can really be applied, to public spaces as well, help us understand how citizens navigate and interact with their environment. It starts to beg us to ask the question, does that area really need to be paved? Can it be used maybe for nature and people instead? Something fun you could do in your community as well. Generally, I feel like we need to shift and view nature as a service and nature as natural capital. I think someone talked about that already today. There is a big ROI to urban forestry. We all know that trees are essentially natural air conditioning. Talked about that earlier with Sugi. And shade translates to real cost savings, so lower energy bills, fewer heat-related illnesses, lower healthcare costs, cooler streets is more walkability, more local business activity, and for every $1 invested in urban trees, they can return $2 to $5 in economic, social, and environmental benefits. So cities that plant trees aren't just adding greenery, they're investing in climate resilience and public health and in economic growth. Nature is not a luxury, it's an economic engine, and we often talk about, how trees cool streets, how green roofs reduce runoff, how parks make people happy, but nature also drives real, measurable, bottom line value, and living infrastructure supports urban economies in so many ways. So the question becomes then, how do we shift from seeing green as garnish to green as capital? The Landscape Architecture Performance Series have a fast fact library. Highly recommend going through it. It's really inspiring. But nature-based infrastructure is on average 42% less expensive than traditional gray infrastructure while delivering 36% more in value. And then there's also this financial sense of biophilic design study that just came out, and it says embracing nature, I'll just read it. Having 10 more trees in a city block can increase health perception to the same degree as 10,000 more in annual income or as being 7 years younger. I'll take all of the above. Okay, let's see how time, okay. So green infrastructure, I feel like, is truly one of the best natural capital methods and bang for your buck when it comes to multi-benefit, sustainable impact. I like to say working on blue-green infrastructure projects is playing with water, which is quite fun. Some examples that I personally love, aside from green roofs and walls, of course, is permeable paving, which was talked about today, and suds. I feel like permeable paving is such low-hanging fruit. It's a very simple approach to water and pollution management because the permeable pavers can filter pollutants and heavy metals, and typically they're also cost neutral because you don't have to add pipes and gullies. So even if the material itself tends to be more expensive, it saves you money elsewhere. And I actually, story time, I just came back from Bristol, UK, where I took a suds masterclass with a leading expert there, Kevin Barton from Robert Bray Associates, and he's done these left two projects here. And I highly recommend following him on LinkedIn. He has great posts, he's a good thought leader. And yeah, and I really feel like suds are a disruptive technology. They're changing the way that we think about design and managing water and infrastructure, moving from like a traditional, centralized, very hard engineering model towards more of a distributed, nature-based, multi-beneficial approach. And right now it seems suds are just very engineering driven and heavy. Modeling should not be what drives the design. Landscape should drive the design. Modeling should validate it. We need to stop making suds so engineering dominant and lead and not lead so much just with end of pipe approaches all the time. You know, drainage hasn't typically influenced master planning in the past, but it probably should. Instead, we should start asking, what would the landscape be in its natural state? What would it do with water? And our designs need to be landscape-led and see rain as a resource and an opportunity. One way to shift the approach is to start where rain lands, right? So that's a top-down approach essentially, and recreate these natural hydrological patterns in the urban environment and get as much water into the ground as we can and as much vegetation interacting with that water as possible. It's always going to be a bit of a compromise, like with the natural landscape, it's never going to be the same as like a woodland or something, right? But that's why we have to store water, give it more time to store in the ground, and slowly release it over time to try to really mimic that natural flow rate and natural drainage. And when designing, people leap straight to extreme rainfall events, like the 1 in 100 plus climate change. And I think, very big basins all the time, which we're probably never going to see fill up in our lifetime. So we really have to manage and pay attention to these smaller rainfall events as well. We should also consider thinking fabric first. You know, if we're spending money on a material, why not make them functional with water management in the very beginning? We should make our challenges to make the urban fabric manage rain, and we should really be influenced by rainwater right from the beginning. And the first thing we should ask at a site is, how does water flow through this? Especially in our semi-arid environments in Colorado. Some greeners tend to be very drought prone, so having more of a blue-green approach so the water typically hangs out a bit longer can help. And that's why everything that y'all are doing here is so crucial. But also what I really love about this project is just the fact that that older woman is swimming in a pond. Like, I don't know if I feel comfortable swimming in any ponds in America, like if I saw something. So that's just beautiful, can you imagine? And then this really fun space for kids to play in that's a little bit of risk in an integrated natural environment. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I hope this inspires you and gives you a little bit of hope as much as it inspires me. I think it's break right after this, so I'm gonna be up here if anyone wants to chat, and I have some cards and stuff too, some business cards. Let me know if you wanna sign up for my course waitlist, but I'm excited. Thank you for listening. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.